Why did she feel it before it came? That weight in the air, that low vibration in her chest like a storm waiting for its first crack of thunder. Old instincts, the kind you never fully kill no matter how long you've been out. 15 years since she wore a uniform. 15 years since Berlin. But tonight, standing behind the counter of the Chevron station 10 miles outside Ridgewood, she felt it again. That shift in the air pressure, that stillness before trouble. She glanced at the clock. 8:42 p.m. 4 more hours until she could lock the doors, drive the 2 miles home, and check on Michael before sleep took her down. The boy would still be awake, even though his back ached worse at night. He always stayed up waiting, tinkering with carburetor diagrams at the kitchen table like a little engineer refusing to surrender to his broken spine. Just the thought of him lit a warmth under her ribs, sharp and tender. The rain hadn't started yet, but she could smell it. The kind of storm that arrives sideways, sheets of water ripping across the prairie, lightning splitting the sky into jagged white. The door chimed. Sarah walked in, shaking road dust from her boots. 17 years old. Her daughter carried her father's stubborn jaw, her mother's eyes. Both a blessing, both a curse. Truck making that sound again, Sarah muttered, dropping her backpack on the counter. Like rocks in a blender. Timing belt, she said softly. I'll check it tomorrow. Sarah tied on the red chevron apron like muscle memory. She'd been helping here since she was 14. Since cancer took her mother and left them all in a house too quiet, a life stretched thin as barbed wire. Michael wants you to quiz him on engine parts when you get home, Sarah said while counting the register. He's scary good now, named every piece of a carburetor in under a minute. Pride flickered, then the ache always both. How was school? Sarah's face clouded. Same, sheriff's kid running his mouth again. Kyle's telling everyone bikers are moving into town, whole place is spooked. Her jaw tightened. The name carried weight. Sheriff Wilson. He'd been running that scare campaign for decades, keeping the town afraid of shadows. Fear was his re-election strategy. Fear was his weapon. Don't give him space in your head, she said, voice steady. He feeds on that. Sarah didn't argue, but her eyes held the questions her mother once asked too, questions she dodged for years. The radio hummed from the back room. Old country, steel guitars and the slow drag of a voice singing about better times. She turned it up a notch, letting the music hold back memory. Outside, the first raindrops tapped the asphalt. By 10, the storm was in full assault, lightning ripping the dark open, thunder cracking windows in their frames. No cars, no headlights. No one risked these roads in weather like this. Until the door chimed again. She looked up. A girl stepped inside, drenched to the bone. Couldn't be older than Sarah. Dark hair plastered to pale skin, eyes sharp in a way that made her blood pulse faster. That look, trained, watchful, already measuring exits. Bathroom? The girl asked, voice barely carrying over the storm. She nodded, pointed down the hallway. Coffee's hot if you need it. The girl disappeared, leaving a trail of wet footprints. Sarah appeared from the stockroom. Who was that? Just a kid caught in the rain. Sarah frowned toward the window, didn't hear a car. Neither had she, and that was strange. Out here, you didn't walk unless you wanted frostbite or worse. 5 minutes later, the girl returned, looking less like a drowned rat now. Up close, details stood out. Expensive boots scuffed but cared for, a chain around her neck with a pendant shaped like wings, intelligent eyes that never stopped scanning. Thanks, she said, stepping to the counter. Can I use your phone? My ride's dead. Help yourself. She poured coffee with one hand, the other brushing that chain as if by reflex. Wings, not an accident, not decoration. Her breath caught in her chest. Memories of Berlin, steel circle, the emblem that never existed, not officially. Before she could ask, headlights slashed across the window. Not one car, 3. The unmistakable growl of a Mustang over the storm. Sarah stiffened. Kyle. The girl froze, coffee halfway to her lips. For the first time, fear cracked through her mask. The bell chimed. Kyle Wilson swaggered in, two teammates at his back. Letterman jackets, arrogance worn like armor. He carried his father's arrogance too, that practiced stance with a hand hovering like a cop's over a holster. "Well, look who it is," Kyle drawled. "Lisa Marshall, princess herself, slumming it in the sticks." The name ricocheted through her skull. Marshall, not coincidence, Hawk's daughter. Lisa squared her shoulders. "Just passing through, Kyle. Don't make this a thing." "Oh, it's a thing when royalty shows up." His grin twisted. "Does Daddy know you're out here, or are you running away again?" His boys spread out, blocking the exits. Tactical, not random, and not lost on her. Sarah stepped closer, putting herself near Lisa. "Buy something or leave. We're closing." Kyle's eyes slid over, full of that sick hunger. "Always the white knight, Reeves. Didn't your daddy teach you not to step into things you can't handle?" Her daughter's jaw hardened. "Actually, he taught me to recognize trash when I see it." The tall one, Baker, stepped forward. "Watch it, grease monkey." Her hand twitched toward the counter's edge, instinct kicking in. But before she moved, Kyle's fist snapped forward, cracking across Sarah's jaw. Her daughter's head whipped sideways, blood blooming at her lip as she crumpled. Everything inside her went white. She vaulted the counter, training and rage welded into one motion. Her hand closed on Kyle's throat, driving him into the wall hard enough to rattle shelves. "Bad move, son." Her voice was calm, too calm, the kind that came from kill zones. "Very bad move." The third boy reached for his jacket. She didn't even look, just caught his wrist, squeezed until his face went pale. "That better not be what I think it is." A switchblade clattered to the tile. Baker froze mid-step. "Smart." She loosened her grip just enough for Kyle to cough, but her words were iron. "Touch my daughter again and not even your daddy's badge will save you. Clear." Hatred burned in his eyes, but fear was there too, buried under the bravado. He spat blood on the floor. "My father will hear about this, count on it." "Good," she said softly, "because I'll be filing charges in the morning." The three backed toward the door, trying to salvage their dignity. Kyle pointed at Lisa, voice sharp. "This isn't over, Marshall. Tell your old man we know what he's planning." Then they were gone, tires screaming into the storm. Silence returned, thick and heavy. She turned to Sarah, gently lifting her chin. "You okay?" Sarah winced, blood at her lip. Not the first time Kyle shown his true colors. "First time he hit you." Her daughter's eyes flickered. She shrugged. "I'm fine, Mom, really." Lisa stood nearby, shaken but trying not to show it. She pressed ice against Sarah's jaw, her hand steady despite the tremor in her eyes. "I should be asking if you're okay. You didn't have to step in." "Yes," Sarah said quietly, "I did." That silence again, then Lisa spoke. "My bike's out there, chain snapped. Had to hide it when they started following me." Her instincts sharpened. The break was too clean, too deliberate. Sabotage. "Convenient timing," she muttered. Lisa's gaze didn't waver. "Maybe, or maybe someone wanted me stranded." The storm raged outside, hammering at the walls. Inside, the girl with wings around her neck watched her like she knew the truth already, that this night wasn't an accident, that ghosts long buried were walking Ridgewood again. And deep inside she knew it too. The past wasn't just catching up. It was here. Why was the storm quieter now, and yet the silence felt worse? She wiped blood from Sarah's lip, but her mind wasn't on the bruise. It was on the girl standing a few feet away, clutching her coffee like it was an anchor in open sea. Lisa Marshall, Hawk's daughter. It wasn't the name alone that set alarms ringing. It was the way Lisa scanned shadows, the way her hand never strayed far from that pendant. Steel wings, the emblem of men who'd sworn never to exist. "You said your bike broke down," she asked carefully. "Timing chain, snapped clean, Couldn't risk pushing it, not with them on me. The girl's eyes gave her away. It wasn't just bad luck. She knew someone had wanted her stranded, but she didn't say it, not yet. Before she could press, headlights cut through the storm. Not the raw snarl of teenagers this time. Authority, flooding the station with blue and red reflections. Sarah stiffened. "Mom." "Stay with her." The door opened. Rain and authority walked in together. Sheriff Dean Wilson. Immaculate uniform, hat tilted just so, silver hair cropped with military precision. Two deputies flanking him, hands near their holsters. Her throat went tight. 15 years she'd kept her head down. 15 years she'd prayed this moment wouldn't come. "Evening," Wilson said, voice dry as paper. "Working late." She kept her tone neutral. "Storm chased off business, something I can help you with." Kyle called, said there was an altercation. His gaze swept the room, sharp as a scalpel. "Said you assaulted him." Sarah stepped forward, bruise dark on her jawline. "After he did this to me." The sheriff didn't even blink. "That's so, because Kyle says otherwise. Claims you were harboring a known associate of the Hells Angels." Lisa flinched. The word landed like a gunshot. "Lisa Marshall isn't an angel," she said flatly. "She's a girl with a broken bike." Wilson tilted his head. "Marshall, as in Robert Marshall." Lisa's silence spoke louder than words. "Thought so." His voice turned low, almost a growl. "Your father, Steel Thunder's chapter president, runs more guns than a small nation. 2 troopers dead in '78. You think I forget that?" "They cleared the Angels of that," she cut in, calm but with steel under it. "Evidence pointed to a rival club." His eyes flickered just for a second. She saw it. He hadn't expected her to know the details. "You seem well informed for a gas station clerk." "I read newspapers." He stepped closer, boots heavy on tile. "Where is she?" "Gone, called a friend. Picked up before you arrived." "Then you won't mind if my deputies take a look around." It wasn't a request. His men were already moving, one toward the garage, the other toward the stockroom. Her pulse pounded. 15 years of quiet, 15 years of no questions asked. And now Wilson was tearing through the station like a man searching for ghosts. "You've lived clean here, haven't you?" Wilson said softly. "But when did you decide to become the enemy?" She held his gaze. "The moment you raised a son who thinks hitting women is sport." For the first time, his jaw tightened. One deputy reappeared, shaking his head. "Nothing," the other too. "She's gone," she said again. Wilson's lips curved into something sharp. "If you see Lisa Marshall again, you call me. Steel Thunder isn't welcome in Ridgewood." And then he was gone, rain swallowing his cruisers. The silence that followed was almost unbearable. "Where is she?" Sarah whispered. Her eyes shifted toward the register. "Storage cellar, trap door." Sarah's jaw fell open. "You." "Later." She moved fast, kneeling behind the counter and lifting the hidden panel. Dust and cold air rose. "Coast is clear, Lisa." The girl climbed out, eyes blazing with new questions. "You knew I should hide." "Because I know your father." The words hung like smoke. "Steel Circle," Lisa said quietly. Not a question, a fact. Her chest constricted. It had been years since anyone spoke the name. "My father has a photo," Lisa continued. "Berlin, '68, 6 of you. He keeps it locked in his safe. You're there, younger, but it's you." Sarah looked between them, confusion etched on her bruised face. "Mom, what is she talking about?" Her throat closed. She promised never to tell, to lock that chapter away. "Your mother and we agreed I wouldn't talk about my service. It was classified then, still is." But Lisa wasn't done. It wasn't a regular unit, CIA task force, black ops, Cold War shadows, Steel Circle. "That's enough." Her voice snapped sharper than intended. Lisa's gaze softened, not anger but recognition. "He trusted you. Hawk did, still does." Her chest burned. Memories she'd buried clawed their way back. Berlin, the snow, the fire, the betrayal. Bed, she told Sarah, softer now. We'll talk later. Her daughter's eyes stayed on her, fierce and unyielding, so much like Jennifer's once were. You're worried about more than Kyle Wilson. She forced a smile. Smart girl, too smart. But her heart knew the truth. The storm outside had passed, but something worse had broken loose. That night, lying awake beside the pistol she hadn't touched in years, she knew it for certain. Berlin hadn't stayed buried. It had followed her here. And tomorrow, it would walk through her door. Why did the quiet feel heavier than the storm? She rose before dawn, her body still wired from the night before. Sleep hadn't touched her, not with Wilson's voice echoing inside her skull, not with the image of Sarah's bruised lip and Lisa's sharp, watchful eyes replaying over and over. The house was still. She checked on Michael, still awake, bent over his notebooks, sketching carburetor diagrams with the concentration of a surgeon. His back curved unnaturally under the strain, but his spirit never bent. "You should be sleeping." "Engines don't wait," he grinned, then noticed her expression. "What happened?" She didn't answer. Not yet. He was 12. Too young for the truth, too old for lies. By the time the first pale blue light of morning pushed over the horizon, she heard it. A sound no soldier forgets. The thunder of engines, not cars but Harleys. Dozens of them. The kind of sound that shakes glass and bone. Sarah froze at the kitchen table, coffee halfway to her lips. Lisa paled. No, he would. But the girl's voice betrayed her doubt. She knew exactly who it was. The rumble grew louder, then stopped all at once. Precision, formation. She went to the front window, pulled the curtain just enough to see. 24 Harleys lined the driveway in perfect rows. Chrome glinting, black leather patched with Death's Head insignia. Steel Thunder, Nebraska chapter. At their center, astride a gleaming Electra Glide, sat a man she hadn't seen in 15 years. Robert Hawk Marshall. Age had added silver to his beard and a limp to his step, but his presence hadn't dulled. His eyes still cut through glass and lies alike. And as if he felt her watching, Hawk looked straight at the window. Their eyes met. He gave one short nod, not greeting but acknowledgement. Her chest clenched. The past had come home. The knock on the door was firm, not demanding, not hesitant, the knock of a man who knew he'd be let in. "Stay here," she told Lisa, though the girl had already moved to the hall. She opened the door. Hawk stood there, 2 lieutenants at his shoulders, Dazel and Monk, if she remembered right. Both carried themselves with the same readiness she recalled from Berlin nights, men waiting for the signal to move. "Hello, Riley," Hawk said, voice gravely low. "Been a long time." "Not long enough if you're bringing trouble to my door." His mouth twitched in the half-smile she remembered. Still direct, he nodded to his men. "They'll keep their distance if you prefer." "You want coffee, Hawk? You came to the wrong house." "I want my daughter." And then Lisa stepped forward, chin lifted despite the fear flickering in her eyes. "I'm right here." For a second Hawk's face softened. The warrior gone, the father showing through. "You okay, kid?" "I was, until I found the tracker you hid in my necklace." Her voice was sharp, edged with betrayal. "You promised me space." "That's my version of space." Hawk's tone was unapologetic. "Knowing you're alive, that's all I need." She felt the tension vibrate between them. Father and daughter tethered by love and resentment. But then Lisa asked the question that cracked everything open. "How, Mom?" Hawk froze. "Chicago with your aunt, where else?" Lisa shook her head slowly. "She left 2 days ago, said she was meeting you. Divorce papers, settlement, all of it. She never came back." Something dark crossed Hawk's eyes. He looked to his captains. "I haven't seen her in 6 months." The weight of the truth landed heavy in the room. Someone had lured Lisa out. Someone had lured her mother out too. "Wilson." The name burned her throat before she even spoke it. Hawk nodded grimly. reading her mind like old times. "You and me need to talk," he said, "for Steel Circle, for Berlin." The words dragged her back through years she'd locked away. Snow falling on steel, a factory in East Berlin, gunfire tearing the night apart, 3 men dead, a betrayal none of them had ever put to paper. "Berlin's dead," she whispered. "No," Hawk said, stepping into the doorway. "It just came back to life." Behind him, the angels waited like sentinels, engines cooling, eyes scanning the tree line. Inside, Sarah hovered near her brother, protective, while Lisa stood stiff, trapped between blood and independence. And she stood at the crossroads, the quiet life she had built in ashes behind her, and the ghost of a past that refused to stay buried. Berlin had come to Ridgewood, and Sheriff Wilson wouldn't be far behind. Why did the coffee taste like steel this morning? She set the mug down on the counter, fingers trembling just enough that Sarah noticed. Hawk sat across the kitchen table, looking impossibly out of place against faded wallpaper and family photos. Leather cut, steel gray beard, sharp eyes that hadn't softened in 15 years. Her daughter watched him warily. Michael, wide-eyed, couldn't look away from the patches stitched into his vest. And Lisa's arms were folded tight, jaw clenched, carrying the silent battle of every child who both loved and resented a parent. "Nice place," Hawk said, scanning the room like it was a map of threats. "You did good, Riley, family, normal, can't say the same for me." Normal, the word felt cruel. Normal had died with Jennifer. Normal had broken with Michael's spine. Normal was a ghost she kept feeding with paychecks from the gas station. "You had your reasons," she said softly. "And you had yours," Hawk countered. Their eyes held years of history pressed into a single glance. Lisa broke it with her voice. "Are we really doing this, reminiscing like the old days? My mom is missing." The air thickened, Hawk's face darkened. "Tell me again what she said." Lisa took a shaky breath. "She got a call, wouldn't tell me from who, said it was you, said you needed to meet. 2 days ago she packed a bag, said she'd be back that night, never came." "I didn't call her," Hawk muttered. Her stomach twisted. The truth was obvious. Wilson. The sheriff hadn't just used Kyle as bait last night. He set the board days earlier, pulling Catherine Marshall out of hiding, pushing Lisa into the open, waiting for Hawk to follow. Before she could say it aloud, tires crunched on gravel outside. Sarah stiffened. "Dad." Not Hawk's riders, different sound, patrol cars. Michael rushed to the window. Deputies and state troopers, at least 3. Her heart sank. Wilson was tightening the noose faster than she'd feared. Hawk stood, already moving to the window. "He's got roadblocks up, trying to box us in." "How many?" she asked. "Enough," Hawk's voice was flat. "This isn't local anymore. He's pulling in feds or something worse." Lisa slammed her hand against the counter. "Then we go now. We find Mom before he buries her." "You don't understand," Hawk said. "This is bigger. This is Berlin." Lisa's eyes narrowed. "Berlin? What the hell does Berlin have to do with my mother disappearing?" The silence that followed was suffocating. Sarah looked at her, Michael too, waiting. She'd kept it hidden for 15 years, but the wall was cracking. "Berlin was a mission," she said at last. Her voice was lower than she meant. "Winter 1968, 6 of us all pulled from different units, special operations, no insignias, no names, just Steel Circle." Lisa leaned forward, "And my father was one of them." She nodded once. "Robert Marshall, Hawk, best tactician I ever saw, fearless, maybe too fearless." "And Wilson?" Sarah asked. Her stomach churned. "He was one of us too, military police, sharp until he was." "What happened?" Lisa pressed. The memory clawed its way back, snow falling like ash, the abandoned factory, gunfire lighting shadows red, 3 of them dead, 1 defector silenced, and a betrayal that still burned in her veins. It was supposed to be an exchange. Information for a man we needed to get out, but someone tipped the Soviets. We walked into an ambush. Her throat tightened. We thought Wilson died that night. But he didn't, Sarah said quietly. No, he resurfaced later. A new name, a new uniform, and now he's sheriff of Ridgewood. Michael looked from her to Hawk, eyes wide. So, he's been your enemy all this time. Hawk's jaw tightened. He was never on our side. Berlin was a sellout. He made off with something that night, something we were sent to retrieve. What? Lisa demanded. Neither of them answered. The silence was heavy, thick with secrets. Sarah broke it first. So Kyle hitting me last night, that wasn't about me. That was about her, about bait. Her voice cracked, but her eyes were steady. Yes, she whispered. And Hawk's silence was confirmation enough. Before anyone could speak again, the rumble outside grew louder. Not engines this time. Loudspeakers, voices carrying across fields. Michael froze. They're calling your name. She moved to the window. A patrol car idled at the end of the driveway, its speaker booming. This is Sheriff Wilson. Step outside. You are harboring fugitives. Failure to comply will result in federal charges. Lisa's face went white. Sarah's fists clenched. He's using the whole town as cover, making it look like you're the criminal. They won't stop, Hawk muttered, moving to the door. Not until we move. She stopped him with a hand to his chest. If you walk out there now, you'll give him exactly what he wants. What do you suggest, Riley? You've got a better plan. Her pulse hammered. She could see it, the old rhythm, the mission gears turning in her mind. The soldier in her wasn't dead, just buried, and Wilson was digging her back out. Root cellar, she said, her voice sharp. Sarah, take Michael, take Lisa, stay there until I call. And you, Sarah asked. I'll stall him. Hawk caught her arm, his grip was firm, familiar. That's suicide. Not if I know how he thinks. She pulled away, and I do. Engines revved outside, dogs barked, deputies shouted. Time was up. She checked the pistol at her ankle, the weight of it too natural after so many years. Wilson had come for ghosts. But ghosts could still fight. Why did the night smell of gunpowder when no shots had yet been fired? She stepped onto the porch, rain dripping from the roof, her hands loose at her sides, though every nerve screamed to draw her weapon. The cruisers lined the dirt road like predators, lights washing the yard in red and blue. Deputies crouched behind doors, rifles resting on frames. And at the center of it all stood Wilson, hat tilted low, rain sliding off the brim, arms crossed like a man who already believed he'd won. Evening, Riley, he called, his voice carried on the amplified speaker. Brings back memories, doesn't it? You, me, standing in the cold waiting for the other to blink. Her jaw tightened, memories of betrayal. He chuckled low and sharp. Berlin, you still carrying that ghost around? That was decades ago. Half the players are dead. Because you put them there. For a flicker his smile faltered. Then it returned colder. You always did have a talent for rewriting stories. I didn't betray anyone. I survived. That's what you never understood. Behind her, through the floorboards, she imagined the children pressed into silence. Sarah clutching Michael's shoulder, Lisa's eyes darting for escape routes. Hawk crouched like a caged wolf. She took a single step forward. What do you want, Dean? His face hardened at the name. Not sheriff, not Sir, Dean, Berlin's ghost. What I've always wanted, he said. What you and Hawk tried to bury, Blackstone. The word hit her chest like a blade. Even after all these years, hearing it aloud made the air heavier. Blackstone's gone, she lied. His smile was slow, poisonous. Then why is Hawk back in town? Why is his daughter hiding in your house? Don't insult me, Riley. You know exactly what that file's worth. She held his gaze steady. Blackstone wasn't just a file. It was the file. The one they'd stolen in Berlin, the one that held names, networks, cutouts, a blueprint of covert power in the Cold War. Men had died for it. and Wilson had walked away with it. "You already have it," she said quietly. "Had it," he corrected, until Hawk lifted it back. "You think I do know? He's been playing both sides since Berlin, pretending to run guns, pretending to run with the angels, but all the while, he's been sitting on Blackstone, waiting to cash in." Her heart pounded. Was it true? Had Hawk carried it all these years? Wilson spread his arms. "So here's the deal. Hand me Hawk and the file and I walk away. You and your kids get to keep this pretty little life. Don't, and I bring this house down around you." She stayed silent. The rain beat harder. "You always were stubborn," Wilson muttered. Then he gestured and his deputies shifted, rifles rising. She raised her voice just enough to cut through the storm. "You fire on this house, you fire on children." "Collateral," Wilson said simply. "Same as Berlin." The words stabbed like shrapnel. He hadn't changed, not 1 inch. Behind her the floor creaked. Hawk's voice was low but steady. "He's bluffing." She didn't turn. "Stay down." Wilson's eyes narrowed. "You think you can outlast me? I run this town, Riley. The mayor, the judges, the press, they all eat from my hand. Tomorrow's headline will read, 'Sheriff stops biker gang ambush, rescues civilian hostages.' You'll be the villain in my story. Again." "Then maybe it's time someone rewrote the ending," she shot back. His smile sharpened. He gestured once more. Deputies spread out, moving toward the tree line toward her flanks, a tactical box closing. Her mind spun. She could hold him here for minutes, maybe, not hours, not with children under the floorboards. She needed Hawk. She stepped back into the house, closed the door against the storm, and found him standing in the shadows. His face was unreadable. Lisa clutched his sleeve, eyes burning. "You have it," Riley said. "Blackstone, you never left it behind." For a long moment, Hawk said nothing. Then slowly he pulled a small black pouch from inside his vest. Weathered, worn, edges frayed. He set it on the table. Lisa's breath hitched. Sarah stared. Riley unzipped it. Inside lay a thin, waterproof packet, yellowed papers, microfilm, and one faded photograph, 6 figures standing in the snow outside a Berlin factory. She was there. Hawk was there. Wilson too, and 3 more, their faces long dead. "Why?" she whispered. "Because it was the only proof," Hawk said. His voice was low, weighted with years. "They buried Berlin, pretended it never happened, but I kept the file for insurance for her." He nodded at Lisa. "For when she was old enough to know who we really are." Lisa's hands shook. "You risked everything for me." "I risked everything," Hawk corrected, "to make sure Wilson never won." The words burned through her chest. Wilson's voice boomed again outside, demanding surrender. Sarah grabbed her mother's hand. "What do we do?" For once, Riley didn't have an answer. She stared at the file, at Hawk, at her children huddled in fear, and at Lisa's trembling strength. Then she knew. "We move," she said. Hawk nodded once. But before they could act, glass shattered in the back room. A tear gas canister rolled across the floor, spewing white smoke. The raid had begun. Why did the smoke sting like old memories? The canister hissed across the floor, spitting thick white clouds that clawed at their throats. Sarah coughed. Michael choked against his sleeve. Lisa covered her mouth with shaking hands. Training took over. She dropped low, yanked the canister with a gloved grip, and hurled it back through the shattered window. A deputy cursed outside as the smoke reversed on them. "Cellar," she barked, her voice sharp-clipped. "Go now." Sarah pulled Michael toward the trapdoor, Lisa close behind, eyes watering but burning with something fierce. Hawk stayed, rifle in hand. An old M1 carbine pulled from his saddlebag, oiled, ready, like he'd known this night was coming. "They'll breach next," Hawk muttered, calm as steel. "I'll stall them," she said, moving to the hall, pistol raised. "You get them out." His hand caught her arm. "Not alone." For a heartbeat, their eyes locked. The old rhythm was still there, the silent coordination, the trust born of Berlin nights and firelight ambushes. "Left flank," she whispered. He nodded once. The first boot smashed through the back door. A deputy, mask on, rifle up. She fired low, controlled, 2 shots to the knee. He screamed, dropping his weapon. Another came through the window. Hawk's carbine cracked once, sending him sprawling. White fog rolled through the rooms, choking, blinding. She navigated by instinct, counting steps, mapping angles, hearing their movements before seeing them. 2 more, Hawk hissed. "Take right." She swung left, catching a deputy mid-lunge. Her pistol pressed to his chest. She fired, he dropped. Her ears rang, her lungs burned, but adrenaline carried her forward. Then Michael's voice, muffled through the floorboards, rose like a knife in the smoke. "Mom." She froze. The deputies had found the cellar. "Move," Hawk roared, charging through the haze. She followed, heart hammering, past the broken kitchen to where the trapdoor lay open. A deputy was halfway down, dragging Lisa by the arm. Sarah clawed at his back, desperate to pull her sister free. Riley's pistol cracked, 1 shot. The man dropped, blood painting the cellar ladder. Lisa scrambled back, coughing but alive. "You okay?" she shouted. Lisa's voice was hoarse. Yeah. Michael's wide eyes shone through the smoke. "We can't stay here." He was right. The house was collapsing under the weight of gas and gunfire. "Out the back," Hawk growled. Together they herded the kids through the smoke, past the toppled furniture, into the night air thick with rain. The storm hadn't passed, it had only regrouped, a steady downpour that cloaked their escape in darkness. Engines roared to life behind them, deputies scrambling, Wilson barking orders. "Split the fields," she commanded, pushing Sarah and Michael ahead. "Stay low, don't stop until the trees." Hawk covered their rear, carbine snapping shots into the dark, buying seconds where seconds mattered most. They sprinted through mud, lungs burning, rain plastering hair to skin. Each flash of lightning lit the chaos, silhouettes chasing, rifles raised, dogs straining on leashes. Michael stumbled. Sarah grabbed him, dragging him onward. Lisa took his other side, teeth gritted against the weight. For a moment, Riley's chest swelled with something fierce. These girls, blood and not blood, fighting like soldiers for the boy who refused to quit. But the pride vanished as headlights cut across the field. Wilson's cruisers had swung wide, boxing them in from the far side. "Down," Hawk barked, shoving them into the wet grass as a spotlight flared. Bullets tore into the earth, ripping mud into their faces. Sarah screamed, clutching Michael tighter. "Cover them," Riley shouted. Hawk rose into a crouch, firing controlled bursts. Riley mirrored him, pistols snapping in rhythm. Deputies scattered under the return fire, the spotlight jerking wildly before cutting out. The sudden dark was their chance. "Woods," she hissed. They crawled, then scrambled, mud slick beneath their boots, until the tree line swallowed them. Branches lashed their faces. Roots caught at their feet. Behind them, Wilson's men poured into the field, dogs baying, lights sweeping. But the trees gave cover. The storm gave noise. And for a few precious minutes, the hunted slipped from the jaws of the hunter. They collapsed near a fallen oak, gasping, soaked to the bone. Michael wheezed against Sarah's shoulder, Lisa clutching her side where a branch had torn her shirt. Riley scanned the dark, ears straining. "We've got minutes, maybe less." Hawk checked his carbine, 2 mags left, not enough. Her mind raced. Options, terrain, weapons, cover. Every calculation screamed the same truth. They couldn't win a firefight against Wilson's army. Michael's small voice broke the silence. "Where do we go?" She looked at him, at the boy who still believed she could fix everything, who carried hope even when his own body betrayed him. And for the first time, she had no answer. Hawk met her eyes. "Safe house." Her breath caught. "That's gone." "Not all of them," Hawk said. His voice was grim. "One left, Black Hollow." The name was a ghost, a fallback from Berlin days, never spoken, never written. A cabin buried in the hills, stocked for a day that was never supposed to come. Lisa shook her head. That's suicide. Wilson will have every road locked down. Which is why we don't take the road, Riley said softly. Her pulse steadied. The soldier was back. She rose, rain dripping off her jacket, pistol heavy in her hand. Get them up, she told Hawk. We move now. Thunder cracked overhead, drowning the sound of Wilson's dogs baying closer. And as the lightning lit the forest white, Riley swore she saw something in Hawk's eyes. Not just determination, not just fear, but the truth. He was hiding more than Blackstone. And she didn't know if she could trust him. Why did the forest feel like Berlin again? Wet earth, silence sharp as wire, danger in every shadow. Riley pushed branches aside, the storm soaking her hair, mud sucking at her boots. Behind her, Hawk guided Lisa and Sarah, steadying Michael when his legs faltered. Their breaths were harsh, ragged, yet they kept moving. They had no choice. Every now and then, thunder rolled, masking their steps. Every now and then, headlights cut through the trees as patrol cars swept the logging roads. Wilson's net was tightening, the manhunt widening. We can't keep this pace, Hawk muttered. We don't stop, Riley shot back. Not until we're buried deeper than his reach. Lisa's voice cracked behind them. And then what? You hide in some cabin while Wilson burns down the world outside. My mom's still missing. The words hit like shrapnel. Riley slowed, turned, faced her. Lisa's hair clung to her cheeks, her eyes ablaze with something raw, fear, grief, fury, all fused into one. You think I don't know what's at stake? Riley's voice was low, sharp. You think I don't care? My daughter was struck in front of me. My son can't run because of a broken spine that should have been fixed years ago if not for bills and a system that eats the weak. And now the man who betrayed me in Berlin is hunting us with dogs and rifles. Don't you dare think I don't understand what's at stake. Lisa flinched, then her chin lifted defiant, then stopped running and fight him. The silence that followed was heavy. Sarah's hand found Riley's sleeve, grounding her. Hawk's eyes, shadowed by rain, betrayed no judgment, only memory. Berlin wasn't a fight, Hawk said softly. It was survival, and survival meant knowing when to vanish. Lisa rounded on him. You vanished from me, from Mom. You vanished every time I needed you. So don't preach survival like it makes you a hero. Hawk's face hardened, but his voice stayed steady. You're right, I wasn't there. I was too busy keeping Blackstone out of men like Wilson's hands. That doesn't excuse it, but it's the truth. Lisa's breath shook. For the first time, Riley saw the cracks, the girl behind the fury, a child who had grown up carrying her father's ghost. Then tell me why, Lisa whispered. Tell me why Blackstone matters more than your family. Hawk's eyes flickered. For a moment, Riley thought he'd stay silent as he always had. But then, in a voice graveled with years of secrecy, he spoke. Because Blackstone isn't just names, it isn't just files. It's the map of everything the Cold War left unfinished. Networks that never died. Men who trade weapons, oil, blood. You think Wilson runs Ridgewood. He's just one branch. Blackstone shows the tree. The storm pressed down around them, as if the world itself was listening. And if Wilson has it, Hawk finished, he doesn't just own this town, he owns the future. Lisa stared at him, chest heaving. So you chose to fight for a future I might never live in instead of being my father. The words cut deeper than any blade. Hawk didn't answer, he couldn't. Riley's hand found Lisa's shoulder. The girl's eyes burned with tears, but her body trembled less. She was steel under the break. You're here now, Riley said gently, and right now that's enough. They moved on deeper into the forest. Hours passed. The storm thinned to drizzle, leaving behind a fog that clung low to the ground. The night grew colder. Michael stumbled, teeth chattering. Sarah wrapped her arm around him, muttering soft encouragements. Almost there, Mikey, just a little more. Riley's chest ached at the sight. Strength didn't always roar. Sometimes it whispered, step by step, refusing to collapse. By dawn, the trees thinned. A ridge rose ahead, jagged rocks breaking the horizon. Hawk slowed, scanning the terrain. "Black Hollow's just beyond," he said. Riley frowned. "I thought it was burned." "That's what we told the agency," Hawk replied. "Insurance." Lisa snorted. "Always insurance with you." Hawk ignored it, leading them up the ridge. The climb was brutal, mud slick, rocks loose. Michael's breath grew shallow, but he forced his way up with Sarah and Lisa steadying him. At the top, the forest opened. There it was, Black Hollow. A cabin of weathered logs half hidden in brush, its roof sagging under moss. From a distance it looked abandoned, forgotten. But Hawk moved with certainty, pushing aside overgrowth to reveal the door. "Still here," he murmured, almost to himself. Inside, dust layered every surface, but the structure held. Hawk lit a lantern, revealing supplies hidden beneath floorboards, canned food, blankets, crates sealed in oilcloth, and weapons, enough to hold out. Sarah exhaled in awe. Michael collapsed against the wall, exhaustion overtaking him. Lisa hovered in the doorway, suspicion etched into her features. "This place," Riley whispered. "You kept it all these years." "Insurance," Hawk said again, but his voice was heavy. Not pride, guilt. They settled in silence. Riley checked the perimeter, Hawk tending the lantern, Sarah and Lisa making Michael as comfortable as possible. For a moment, the cabin felt like sanctuary. But the peace was fragile. As Riley stared out into the foggy tree line, she heard it. A sound too steady to be storm, too deliberate to be wind. Engines. Distant, muffled by trees, but closing. She turned back to the cabin. Hawk saw it in her eyes without a word. "They found us," he muttered. Lisa's fists clenched. "Then we fight." Sarah rose, chin high. "We fight." Michael, pale and trembling, nodded weakly. "No running this time." The sound of engines grew louder, clearer. And for the first time in 15 years, Riley felt the circle close. Berlin's ghosts had followed them to Black Hollow. And this time, there would be no vanishing. Why did the engines sound like Berlin all over again? Riley stood at the window of Black Hollow, pistol in hand, watching beams of headlights carve through the fog. One after another they appeared, circling the ridge like wolves. Red and blue strobes flashed against the cabin's walls. Wilson's voice carried on a loudspeaker, smooth as oil, cutting through the night. "Robert Marshall, Riley Reeves, I know you're in there. You've got something that doesn't belong to you. Hand it over and this ends clean." Michael stirred on his blanket, coughing weakly. Sarah moved to his side, wiping rain from his face with her sleeve. Lisa stood near Hawk, her fists clenched, her eyes unblinking. Hawk checked his rifle. "They'll breach in minutes." Riley's voice was steady. "Then we hold." Lisa snapped her head toward her. "Hold. Against the sheriff, his deputies, state troopers. They'll kill us." Hawk's eyes narrowed. "Not if we bleed them first, make it costly." The girl's fury flared. "This isn't Berlin. This isn't some mission. These are my neighbors out there, people I grew up with. Wilson's got them believing he's saving the town from us." Her voice cracked, but she didn't falter. "If you fight them, you prove him right." The words hit hard. Riley's grip tightened on her pistol. Lisa wasn't wrong. This wasn't war, not really. It was theater, Wilson's theater, and they were the villains he needed. Outside, the engines cut off. Silence pressed in. Then the dogs barked, pulling at their leashes. "They're coming," Hawk muttered. He moved toward the door, rifle raised. But Riley stopped him with a hand to his chest. "No," she said, "not like this." Hawk's brow furrowed. "You're out of your mind. If we don't fight, we die." "If we fight, Wilson wins." Lisa's eyes met hers, wide, searching, desperate for someone to prove her right. Riley drew a long breath, holstering her pistol. Then she pushed the door open and stepped into the night. The cold hit first, then the light. Spotlights snapped onto her, blinding, pinning her in place. Rifles lifted, safeties clicked. Wilson stood at the front, his hat shadowing his face. He smiled when he saw her. There she is, the ghost herself. Thought you could run forever, Riley. She said nothing. She just walked forward, slow, steady, the way a soldier walks through a minefield. Where, Hawk? Wilson demanded. Where's the file? She stopped 10 feet away, rain dripping from her hair, her voice calm. Right here. For a flicker, confusion crossed his face, then suspicion. Where? In me, she tapped her chest. Berlin, every name, every contact. You think a piece of paper was all we carried? I memorized it, Dean. We all did, Hawk, me. The ones you killed. You didn't steal Blackstone, you stole a copy. His jaw tightened. The deputies shifted uneasily, a crack in his mask. Lies, he hissed. You're bluffing. She took another step closer. Then pull the trigger, shoot me in front of them, show them what kind of sheriff you are. The silence was electric. Deputies glanced at one another. Some lowered their rifles an inch. Doubt rippled through the line. Wilson's smile faltered. You think they care about the truth, they care about order, and I am order. No, Riley said softly. You're fear, and fear always eats itself. Lightning split the sky, throwing his face into sharp relief. For the first time she saw it, the cracks, the desperation under his control. Behind her, the cabin door creaked. Hawk stepped out, Lisa at his side. He carried the pouch, but his rifle hung forgotten at his hip. This ends tonight, Hawk said. Lisa's voice was clear, steady. Not with blood, with truth. She stepped forward, past her father, past Riley, into the light. Her voice rang out, trembling but strong. You all know me, Lisa Marshall. You've known me since I was a kid. Sheriff Wilson says I'm the enemy. Does that make sense to you? Does it make sense that your neighbors, your classmates, your own children are suddenly traitors because one man says so? The deputies shifted again. A few lowered their weapons. Wilson barked, shut her up. No one moved. Lisa lifted the pouch high. This is what he wants, not because it keeps us safe, because it keeps him in power, because he'll trade it for money, for influence, for his own empire. That's the truth. Wilson's face twisted. His hand shot to his sidearm. But Hawk moved faster. His rifle cracked once. The pistol spun from Wilson's hand, clattering into the mud. Wilson staggered back, clutching his arm, fury burning in his eyes. You think this is over, he spat. You think truth wins. Truth doesn't matter, power does. Riley stepped closer, her voice low enough that only he could hear. Sometimes, Dean, power is just fear dressed in a uniform, and fear doesn't last. He glared at her, rain streaking his face, but he didn't raise his hand again. Not with every eye watching, not with his deputies already wavering. The standoff stretched like wire pulled to the breaking point. Then slowly, one deputy lowered his rifle. Another followed. The line unraveled. Wilson's face collapsed, not with defeat, with the realization that the story he'd written was slipping away. He turned, storming to his cruiser, barking orders that no one obeyed. Engines roared to life, but not in pursuit, only retreat. And then, as suddenly as they'd come, the wolves were gone. Silence swallowed the ridge. Riley exhaled, her knees almost buckling. Hawk steadied her, though his own hands shook. Sarah and Michael rushed from the cabin, clinging to her, to each other, to the fragile safety of the moment. Lisa stood tall, the pouch still in her grip. Rain ran down her cheeks, but her eyes burned clear. For the first time, Riley saw her not just as Hawk's daughter, but as her own woman. She looked at Hawk, at Lisa, at her children, and felt the truth settle like ash after fire. The fight wasn't won. Wilson wasn't gone. Blackstone's shadow still loomed. But tonight dignity had held, not with gunfire, with presence, with refusal, with truth. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts.